if you're watching or hearing me today, you are okay. Being gay is okay.
July marked the end of Pride Month. But in Mississippi, Pride is just getting started. In this episode of MT Speaks, Mississippi Today talked about Pride in Mississippi with Jason McCarty, head of Capital City Pride.
Or whatever that we create, I want kids or whoever to just come and be their most authentic self and not have to worry about the news.
And Robin McGehee, a Mississippi expat who now lives in California.
As much as it was a torturous relationship growing up, it doesn't mean that I wasn't in love, and I'm deeply in love with Mississippi and the South. My name's Robin McGehee. I grew up in South Jackson. My dad worked for Packard Electric in Clinton, Mississippi, and my mom worked for St. Dominic's in Jackson. And I grew up as a young 5-year-old who knew she was a lesbian early on and graduated from Forest Hill High School. Really struggled with my identity, not only just family acceptance, but religious acceptance, and struggled to know that a state that I really deeply love and feel connected to didn't make me feel like I was a wanted child. So I moved away and I have done everything I can to just stay connected and be involved in equality rallies and fighting back. And right now, feeling the most pride I've ever felt. I'm almost 50 years old, and thanks to Jason and the Mississippi Capitol Pride team, I truly felt pride for the first time ever in the state. Instead of just trying to fight for the rights of equality, it was nice to come home to Jackson in October of last year and feel pride.
Thank you for saying that, Robin. I'm Jason McCarty. My pronouns are he, him, and I have the most amazing privilege of being the executive director of Capital City Pride. I must say before we get started, because of people like Robin, is the reason why I've been able to do my work almost so freely. She was one of the pioneers that kind of set the tone in this community. And although she's left us, she's very active in California. But I wanted to say, I grew up here outside in the suburbs in Pearl. So I'm a Pearl pirate. We all can't be pirates, but I'm one of them. And lived here my full 18 years in school. And then I moved to New York and went to school and lived in New York for a decade. Traveled the world as a makeup artist and got to do some pretty cool stuff. But when I was out on my journey, I never felt unsafe for being a gay person. Living in Manhattan and living in Seattle and living in Denver and all the international travel in between, I really never felt unsafe, right? I felt very safe being gay. And I would come home to visit, to see my family, and I could not wait to get on the plane to go home. And at that time, home was New York, Denver, or Seattle. And, my mom got sick about 5 years ago, took a medical leave, and I came home. And for the first time, I started feeling still. And I think a lot of it internally, I felt really comfortable who I was. And so I started seeing a different state. At that time, there was another organization that Unity Mississippi that tried to do some great work in Mississippi, and they did. And I remember going to my first gay bar here. And long story short, I decided to stay. My family, I had missed seeing my cousin completely go through school and graduate, being gone so long. But Mississippi, although we have progressed, it's still a very hard state to be gay in. I tell people when I talk to them all the time, being gay in the United States is not easy, but being gay in Mississippi has its own sets of challenges. And I think it's easy for people that live, no disrespect, Robin, on the West Coast or the East Coast, they live in these bubbles that they forget sometimes how difficult it truly is to be gay in Mississippi. And so we started Capital City Pride 3 years ago. It started off as a community service organization that just wanted to throw events. These events have turned into lifelines for people in this community, including myself. We have successfully thrown over 60 events in the last 2 years. COVID hit us hard, and so we had to put Pride on hold 2 different years. But Robin was here last year for our inaugural Pride event, and it was 3 days of celebration. And I remember going home on the last night. It was all done. It was all packed up, bruises all over my feet, tired from head to toe. And I remember just laying on the bed saying, that is the Pride that I needed as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I needed. That's what I needed to see, to know that I was okay. And so every day I get up with that mindset, because kids need to know that they're okay.
When he talked about Pride for the child of Mississippi, or the kid of Mississippi, I am living proof that the adult of Mississippi needs to hear that same message. And, I think that there are so many people that want to love and be loved by Mississippi. And that's what this Pride event does. So it goes across the age spans, all the way to our senior community that have never really felt, that prideful element before. But just a small part of that journey for me was, like I said before, I knew at 5 years old that I was gay. I went to Raymond Road Baptist Church kindergarten, and I was chasing a girl across the playground. And the teacher told me, girls don't chase girls, boys chase girls. And the next day I came to school with a little Sluggers baseball hat, and she told me, what are you wearing that hat for? And I said, well, my name's John Seville. And not because I, had any gender identity elements at that time. It was more like, okay, well, if I've got to be a boy to, chase this girl across the playground, then my name's John Seville. And she took me into the bathroom and washed my mouth out with soap and told me that I was never to say that again, that my name was Robin McGehee, and that I needed to know my place, and that girls chased boys and boys chased girls, but girls don't chase other girls. And I don't know what I was doing at 5, but I remember the girl I was chasing after. I can tell you her name right now. I'm not going to do that because it's Mississippi Today, and she's still. But the point is at 5 years old, I got the message of don't tell anybody. Keep it quiet. It's something to be ashamed of. You're going to be punished. And so I was not out. I knew, women that I was attracted to through, high school. I showed evidence of that attraction. And as I was telling you, I had a high school counselor who connected me to William Carey College, which is a small Baptist college in Hattiesburg. And I got a full paid scholarship to go to William Carey when I really wanted to go to a 4-year public university. And I found out later it was because her husband was the president of the Mississippi Baptist Convention, and he had pulls to the president at William Carey. And they were really, on an effort to change me. I had been involved with student government. I'd done the work at Forest Hill to help remove the rebel flag as the school flag with the superintendent of Jackson Public Schools at the time, Ben Canada, who was the first African-American male to be the superintendent of Jackson Public Schools. And so I think they saw, this, young girl just she could, be involved in politics and change things, but on a race issue, not on a queer issue. And so let's send her to this, Baptist college and teach her the right ways. And my first semester there was a girl that was thrown out because they found out she was a lesbian. And I got that continued message of don't tell anybody or you're going to lose this scholarship. Your family's low income. They can't really afford to send you to college. And to be completely honest with you, I didn't come out until I graduated from William Carey and I left to go to California because I didn't feel like I could be honest with who I was. I was so closeted and so dealing with religious dogma and self-hate that I believed that I couldn't be saved if I was queer. I believed that my family wouldn't love me if I was queer. So I actually married a man who was a good friend of mine, trying to pray hard enough and do all the right things and, change my life so I would finally be accepted and, do all the right things that Mississippians say we have to do. But going to California, like I was telling you, I ended up in the Central Valley, which is a lot like Mississippi. You have the racism, you have the social socioeconomic injustice. You've got, the queer haters. And it was a lesson for me from my God that you have to do the work where your feet are planted and you can't run from it. And that's what I love about Jason. He ran back to the work that had to be done. God was calling him to come, in my opinion, to say, you got to do this work, and you can't just say, I'm afraid and I'm going to run from it. You've got to change it. And so long story short, that led to activism, arrested at the White House fence, trying to push Obama around marriage equality, coming back to the state capitol with the group that Jason was talking about, Unity Mississippi, that was trying to do things. But they were fighting back. They weren't talking about building Mississippi. And a lot of times when you're dealing with the sucker punch, which is, progressive politics in Mississippi feels like a sucker punch. And I feel like Jason and the community that he's created with this Mississippi Capital Pride is saying, let's do more than just have a response to the sucker punch. Let's build a base. Let's build a community that's proud and prideful for who they are.
Parents probably don't want to hear me say this, but take a year off and go study abroad, or go to California, or go to Seattle, or go to New York or Miami, or all these fabulous places. Get all that out of your system and then come back and help us build a new Mississippi. I truly believe that my kids are going to live in a completely different Mississippi. But if we all leave, then who's going to help restart it? I'm grateful for people like Robin that has left but still wants to be involved, right? And so she's on the Pride Committee this year, and she's being able to Zoom in. That's important. So if you do leave, stay connected, right? But if we all leave, then Mississippi is not going to grow.
The dogma doesn't leave. The racism, the, sexism, the, homophobia, transphobia, et cetera, it doesn't leave. But the only way it's going to change is by people doing the work to change it. And I hope, what Jason is saying is that we're building a better Mississippi with all of this.